In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Franklin Christoph Firma-Flex Journal Notebook. I'll go over the specs, I'll do a paper test, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about the notebook coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps out my channel. This is the Franklin Christoph Firma-Flex Journal Notebook. I'm not sure why it gets the designation journal and notebook, but it does. This is a notebook that's made by a fountain pen manufacturer, Franklin Christoph. So my expectation is that this should be very good with fountain pens. And it comes in a couple of sizes. I have the A5 size here. It comes in A4 and A6. And then it comes in dot, lined, grid, and blank. And depending on which of those types you choose, you get a different stitching around the edge of the cover. So because I have the lined one here, I got this maroon stitching. So that's just kind of a subtle designation for the type of ruling or the type of pages that are in the notebook. Now, this has a 7mm rule. It has what's called this Firma-Flex leatherette cover. It's kind of a semi-hard cover, I guess. It has the Franklin Christoph logo, which is this Celtic knot with 4 diamonds in it. It's just a nice debossed logo. It's pretty good looking, I think. And then on the back, we also have the Franklin Christoph logo with 4 diamonds again debossed in that Firma-Flex. It looks pretty leather-like, and it feels nice. It doesn't feel like leather, but it has a nice feel to it. Franklin Christoph puts these beveled corners on all of their notebooks, so you don't accidentally, bend or fold or bump the corners. It's an interesting detail. The paper in this is a proprietary paper, and it's a specially formulated 90 GSM sugarcane paper that's pH neutral and acid free. It's designed to be smooth, resistant to feathering, absorbent, and resistant to bleed, according to Franklin Christoph. Now, the paper is interesting. And I don't know if it's going to show in the video or not. They call it having a slight lavender hue, and I think that's right, but it's, more of a grayish paper. By comparison, this Mont Blanc notebook has more of a bright white paper, so you can just kind of see the difference there. It's a little bit darker than I'm used to. I won't say that I love this color, but if the paper's good, it doesn't really bother me too much. Now, there are 192 pages. There's a sewn binding, and as you can see here, it lies pretty flat. There are 12 signatures. There aren't really any special features. Come to the front page, we have a paste down, Franklin Christoph, and a place for your name or whatever you want to put here. And then we just go right into the lined pages. There's no perforated pages, there's no pocket in the back, there's no elastic. You do get a bookmark, and that's pretty much it in terms of features. Now, in terms of paper performance, it's pretty decent. This is my paper test here. You can see there's a touch of feathering on the Pilot 6mm, which is a pretty crazy nib. A little bit on the Mont Blanc. A little bit on the Conway Stewart. This is a vintage pen with a stub nib. Pretty much no feathering on the Schaefer Legacy, none on the Pilot Professional Gear, and pretty much none on the Lamy Safari. The rest of the pens, the non-fountain pens, look pretty decent. There's a little bit of feathering with the Uniball Air Micro. On the back, we did get some bleed through from the Mont Blanc, from the Pilot as well, but I mean that's kind of to be expected. A tiny bit from the Conway Stewart, the stub nib, and just really minor spotting from that Schaefer Legacy. But other than that, none of the other fountain pens bled through. The Sailor and the Lamy were totally fine. Pretty good performance actually for a Sharpie. The Copic bled through. It's not, I would say this performance is pretty decent. The feathering on this Mont Blanc doesn't really bother me at all. The bleeding is a little bit more concerning, but personally I would write on both sides of the page with this. Now, in terms of the ruling, we do have this, they say that this is a maroon line here, which corresponds to the stitching around the cover. To me, it looks more like brown. But maybe I'm not too good at seeing colors. The ruling here is 7 millimeters. It's pretty good. Can I do any... There isn't too much in the way of show through. I wrote on the other side of this. You can see a little bit of bleeding because I use that Mont Blanc, but otherwise pretty minimal show through, I think. Yeah. Now there's no headband on this notebook, but you can clearly see the signatures there. You can see the stitching in the back here. That's not fake. That's really the stitching that's binding this thing together. Overall, this notebook is, it's $14.50. It's a pretty nice notebook for that price. I think the biggest thing that some people might not like is the color of the paper. And you do get little, are you gonna be able to see this? You do get like little dots like this. It's not the cleanest looking paper I've noticed. I also didn't particularly like that the bookmark looks like this at the end. That looks pretty rough. But let's check the binding is quite nice. It's very this is really flexible, and it's well put together, the binding. And it lays flat without much issue. You can pretty much go anywhere in the notebook and it'll lie flat without much in the way of coaxing. So that is the Franklin Christoph Firma-Flex Journal Notebook. So what are my pros and cons for the Franklin Christoph Firma-Flex Journal Notebook? I think the number one pro here is its affordable price. $14.15 is very reasonable. I typically expect a A5 hardcover notebook to be around $20. So $14.50, very good price. And I think the quality of the cover is really nice. I love this contrast stitching. I like the beveled edges. The material has a nice feel to it. It feels high quality. I would not have guessed that this is a $14.50 notebook. It really looks fancy, I think. The other thing that I like about this is that the binding is very flexible. It lays flat. It's very easy to use. The paper is pretty fountain pen friendly. I would say as long as you don't go too wet, it works very nicely and you can write on both sides. Now in terms of cons, I would say the one that might bother people is that the paper is kind of this grayish lavender color. It's not a bright white paper. Also, there are little imperfections in the paper, like little dots. Nothing that affects writing on it, but there's just, on some of the pages, there's just little dots of something from the sugarcane paper, and that can be distracting. I don't personally mind it, but some people might. Other things that I don't necessarily like, well, I mean, this bookmark doesn't look particularly good. It's not been finished at the end, and there's kind of a big frayed end to it. So that's not a wow. There's no headband in the notebook. At this price, I don't really care, but that is a feature that I do generally like. Overall, though, I think this is a really nice notebook for the money. It feels premium, and the fountain pen performance is quite good. So that is the Franklin Christoph Firma-Flex Journal Notebook. Do you guys have this notebook? Do you like this notebook? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much, and until next time.